1994 was the year of Carrey. Wait, isn't that the same intro I used for Tim Allen? Guess those two had a pretty good 1994. Wait, I used it for Jim Carrey in my Ace Ventura video as well? Man, I'm a hack fraud. Moving on. In one calendar year, Jim went from that guy who plays Fire Marshal Bill to movie megastar. The most approachable of these movies was The Mask. Yep, no butt-talking or suggestions of man rape in this one, just good old-fashioned cartoon-esque silliness. And as we know, cartoons have never been inappropriate. Anywho, while this is just a harmless comic romp, I can't wrap my head around the film's biggest problem. Why does nobody seem to have an issue with the mask breaking the rules of physics? Is he God? Is there any limits to his power? Does anybody seem to care that he's breaking the space-time continuum? I mean, hell, any woman in 17th century Salem who farted or looked a man in the eyes was burned as a witch. How does this guy get away with having actual powers? Okay. I mean, look, sex crime Mr. Yuck over here is freezing himself into position and no one cares. But of course, enough with the intro. I have so many questions, you know how this works, so let's dive into it. We meet Stanley Ipkiss, an incel cuck who would rather watch cartoons than take his dog out for a pee who has been home alone for over 9 hours. Maybe that's why his landlady, Mrs. Peeman, hates him so much, because his apartment smells like pee. Man. I mean, seriously, take that dog out. It has the kibble squirts. After the worst night of his life at the Coco Boner Club, Stanley mistakes a pile of garbage for a human being. Hey! Hey, mister! But seriously though, how did he think that was a person? Stanley ends up finding a mask that was broken free at the beginning of the movie. The mask almost sucks Stanley's face off, so his immediate decision is to try to put it back on anyways. Sidebar here, I'm no germaphobe, but wasn't that thing just rolling around in river garbage? Is it really a good idea for Stanley to put that on his face? I'm just going to say right now, Stanley Ipkiss gave us all COVID in 1994. COVID-94. Okay. Once Stan puts on the mask, he turns into a remorseless psychopath with a desire for cartoon-esque anthropomorphic schadenfreude and violence in Bedlam. Stanley runs into his landlady as the mask. Now, at first, it does almost seem like people are aware that his behavior is bizarre as the mask. His landlady explains to the police how his behavior and movements seem odd and unbelievable, and she could not believe her eyes. And later, when Stanley as the mask robs a bank, the two police officers involved in the investigation of the robbery, Calloway and Dial, notice how impossible his movements are.
Wow, look at that guy. Nobody's that fast at my bank.
I'll say.
Okay, got it. So everybody can notice his impossible like magic behavior, and if they saw it in person, they would run away screaming. Got it.
Let's rock this joint!
Wait, so everybody at this club is perfectly okay with a man who just turned into a cartoon wolf with a hard-on, running at the speed of light just to turn a man into a human tornado that makes his clothes change. Which one is it? This is the normal world, right? So a guy who looks like Daddy Warbucks fucks Slimer, throwing a woman into the air, pulling an alarm clock out of his dick while she maintains in midair for over 8 seconds isn't normal, right? Right? Oh, and Tina's dead, by the way. From what? Well,
Whiplash.
it's not like he's casting a spell on anybody or anything. I mean, he even had to bribe the doorman just to get in. But before the mask can commit sexual assault, again, he runs afoul of Dorian. Dorian owns the club and is the number 2 in the mafia circuit. And when it comes to the mask, he's
The heavy.
Yeah, thanks, Leo. This is the part of the movie where the mask completely destroys all sense of time and space, but do Dorian's men even give a damn?
Ice this deadbeat! I guess not!
So, does everyone just enter the mask's world when he takes over Stanley? Is this his world and we're all just living in it? But if that's the case, then why did Calloway and Dial find his behavior so odd earlier in the movie? Was it because he was on a recording device? Does it only affect you in person? Or did the filmmakers not give a shit because the movie was supposed to be just a silly throwaway piece of garbage that was intended for 8-year-old idiots? Yeah, and that's a self-burn. I don't have a photo of me from back then, but this is a good visual approximation. Okay, so maybe Dorian and his goons were so focused on killing him, they didn't notice that he also happened to have the powers of the devil. I'm sure law enforcement will be different. After the mask tries to rape Tina in public, the police track him down and tell him to freeze.
Freeze!
Are either of these two officers going to acknowledge the fact that this man just turned himself into an ice block and is floating in mid-air? No, apparently they're just annoyed by his shenanigans and ignore his godlike abilities.
All right, on free. You're under arrest.
The mask continues to break the whole space-time continuum, and the police continue to not care. Does he have some kind of spell over them? You know, like these three ladies? If so, they never explain that. And if so, why is it just for them not to question his powers? Because they're still annoyed by him, still want to arrest him, still see him as a menace. After all, when he's surrounded by police... Wait, why is he surrounded by police when only 2 cops went in the woods to arrest him? And why are there more cops for a single bank robber than for Lee Harvey Oswald or Waco? Sorry, got sidetracked. But when the mask starts doing Cuban Pete, he does actually show some level of magic power over someone. Now, is that the first and last time we ever see that in this movie? It sure as hell is. And why does this affect the SWAT team but not Callahan and
Dial?
And how much therapy is this police squad gonna need after they've had this choreographed dance move mass delusion? I mean, how are they gonna explain this to the other boys at the station? Well, first the skull came protruding from his face, and then instantaneously he changed his clothes to become a mix between Ricky Ricardo and the Chiquita Banana Woman, and then without any control over our bodies, he made us all dance with him, and then he got away while we all continued to dance in a tear gas mass delusion hellscape we found ourselves in. Pretty open and shut case. Towards the end of the second act, Dorian threatens to kill Stanley unless he shows him how the mask works.
Now tell me, how's this mask work? I don't know. You just put it on.
So he met this sorcerer-esque demon who could break all the rules of physics and then decided that this one mask was the reason for how he was able to pull all that off. Did Dorian read the script? Pretty sure Dorian read the script. Dorian crashes the charity ball at the Coco Boner Club, only for actual boners to save the day.
Nobody ever kissed me like Dorian, Tyrell.
Romeo, this whole place is gonna blow in a couple of minutes.
Just wait!
Okay.
At the end of the movie, Stanley, who is still the #1 suspect and a man who broke out of lockup, is just free to go because the mayor saw somebody else wear a mask. And only one man can wear a green mask. That's just Carney code. Never once have they explained the rules or how he can do the things that he does. They never explain any limitations to any of this. And most importantly, nobody questions why this green-faced monster who looks like one of the hemorrhoids the Mucinex creature has the powers of a god. There are no repercussions. As long as he has the mask on, he can do anything that he wants. It takes all the stakes out of everything. It just kind of
Sucks.
The mask seems like a second draft of what should have been a story that had 8 rewrites. Either that or they just cut a shit ton of footage. I will say this, without Jim Carrey, this movie would have been lost to time. Maybe if the producers had some more questions about the script, I would need to have them for them. I mean, this is the version of the script they went with? I mean, did the writers have a bunch of crack that they were
Okay.
I hate myself for that. Thanks for watching.